Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Autry, here with Tarun Duglu and Abhi Dingery. Today, we'll be recapping the wild game between UNC and Appalachian State. Take it away, Abhi.
Based off the box score, you can already tell it was a crazy game up in the mountains. UNC scoring 63 points, with the Mountaineers scoring 61. Quite a nail biter at the end, but the box score does not tell the entire story. As going into the half, the score was 28 to 21 UNC, and going into the third quarter, it was 41 to 21 UNC, looking like a commanding win. But in the fourth quarter alone, Appalachian State scored 40 points. Just 40 points. That is 13 times more than Oregon scored this entire week. In that entire quarter, it was 62 points were scored, looking like a basketball score. I mean, UNC is pretty known for their basketball program, but you didn't expect this type of scoring from them on the football field, especially with such a painful ending for the game for the Mountaineers off of a dropped 2-point conversion that would have sealed them the game. But speaking of high scoring offenses in this game, let's talk about the offensive MVPs of this game. Starting off with Chase Bryce, quarterback for the Mountaineers, putting up an amazing show. 20 of 5 for 38 passing, 361 yards, 6 touchdowns passing. Just elite quarterback play, just really finding his guys out there. Honorable mention, he really spread the ball out, getting touchdowns to Deshaun Davis, Christian Horn, Caden Robinson, Henry Pearson. No specific one target, just really finding flow in the offense. And as well for Drake May, putting up 24 of 36 passing, 302 yards, 4 touchdowns passing, and 1 on the ground. Really just an amazing scoring day for both these teams, as they also were able to get it done on the ground, as App State and UNC scored 3 touchdowns rushing. Just an overall dominant offensive game for both teams, especially you can see in the fourth quarter. Have any comments about this so far?
Yeah, no, I mean, when any team scores 40 points in a quarter, obviously it's going to be a great offensive game. I think both UNC and App State combined for over 1,200 yards of offense within this game, which is absolutely ridiculous. And like you said, it was pretty evenly split with like 700 yards passing and about 500 yards rushing. So overall, really good game. I don't really have any questions. Do you have any, Tarun?
I don't have any questions. I just a comment on that. I think this definitely reminded me of that classic Baker Mayfield Patrick Mahomes duel back I believe in 2016 or 17. I can't really remember, but one of those high scoring games. Two really good quarterbacks. Defenses didn't show up, and it was just a fun day out in the yard, as some might put it, just flinging the ball around. So I think this is another one of those games for sure.
Honestly, it definitely looked like just a bunch of kids playing football in like the street or like in someone's yard. The rock was just being tossed so much.
Yeah. I don't know what you're gonna talk about for defensive MVP for UNC, Obby, because if I'm UNC's defensive coordinator, I'm probably not the most liked man in Chapel Hill at the moment.
Definitely
Yeah.
was not
Well, let's
a
see.
defensive game, but for our defensive MVPs, if we go to that, Nick Hampton for the Mountaineers, putting up a really good performance. 5 tackles, 4 solo tackles, 2.5 sacks, really pressuring the quarterback, and a forced fumble, just really making an impact for a game that was completely offensive oriented. But on the other end, Cedric Gray, 13 tackles, 6 solo tackles, and an interception. A very crucial interception in the game, but really near the end, but yeah, big play from Cedric Gray for a game that was 63 to 61. You wouldn't expect these type of defensive stats, but truthfully, even though this was an offensive game, defense at the end really won it, because at the end of the game, as the Mountaineers were coming back on the 2-point conversion that, as you know, they lost by 2, on the 2-point conversion, the defense made a good play as I think Chase Bryce threw the 2-point conversion pass to Nate Noel, and he dropped it. based off of it was a wide open pass, very similar to if any of y'all watched the NFL last year, Lamar Jackson to Mark Andrews, where he dropped that 2 point conversion on the Steelers. Just a horrible way to end the game. Just a wide open but naked pass, essentially. But yeah, for a very offensive oriented game, the defense still shined somehow. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, so I was kind of just thinking. Tarun made his own comparison between obviously the classic OU Texas Tech showdown. I think this game is also very reminiscent of Ole Miss Arkansas last year, which also I think got up in the 60s and ended on a failed 2 point conversion by Arkansas, who scored with less than a minute left. So I mean, you look at that, and this is exactly the same type of thrilling game. I mean, in the Ole Miss game, obviously there weren't 60 points scored in the fourth quarter, but both games very similar, and both ended with failed 2 point conversions.
Yeah.
I do Yeah, I do have a question for you, Avi.
Hmm.
How do you? I don't even know how to phrase this. How do you feel about Appalachian State's offense after just randomly waking up in the fourth quarter? Like, what do you think that promises, like, shows for them for the rest of this year?
I mean, truthfully, next game they do play number 6 ranked Texas A&M, but outside of that one game, they don't really play anyone who's just really a team that can match their offensive firepower. So definitely be a really great offense in college football. Although it might not result in a playoff berth, maybe it'll get you a good bowl game. Just really a good showing. But against the teams that definitely have a good defense, the Appalachian defense also needs to step up because the only reason why it was 63-61 is neither team's defense decided to show up. It was a pure shootout, and you're not going to have a pure shootout every day, every game. So there's definitely a lot of potential for this offense, but the defense needs to be somewhat consistent for that offense to translate into wins.
Yeah, I got another question for you. On next, basically the flip side of this, North Carolina, obviously putting up a large amount of points. There's big questions about them going into this year with Mac Brown coming back for his fourth year, but losing Sam Howell. And so I think this game obviously shows they can score points if needed. So I guess the question is, how do you feel about their matchup with Notre Dame in 2 weeks? How do you think that game will go based off of how many points they scored now and how their defense went?
It's not going to be as bad as people thought it's going to be. I still think Notre Dame takes that, but it's not going to be maybe an absolute blowout in Notre Dame's favor. Nothing like an easy game. They'll definitely put up a good fight.
I don't know about that, Obby, but
What I mean
I
a
don't know
good
how
fight.
they.
What I mean a good fight, it'll be like a 20 point blowout or a 40 point blowout. It'll
Yeah,
be
I mean,
like it'll be somewhat closer. You know.
I, I think I think the opposite. I think UNC wins that one. The only
Yeah, you
Really?
reason
have
I
to take it
say
in.
that,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I don't want to go too much into predictions, but I guess like the only reason, and this again is only based off Notre Dame against a really good Ohio State team. I don't know too much about North Carolina's um rushing attack or on the defensive rush. But assuming they can get a good defensive rush, Tyler Buckner is a really good quarterback, but I think he has a similar problem to a lot of young quarterbacks where once he's rushed, he can get kind of spooked. And I think if UNC can have a solid rushing attack with this offense, which won't put 60 on Notre Dame team, but could put 30.
Yeah,
But
another thing.
Nothing
Yeah,
against.
just like add on to your point. Like another thing to consider is that this game is at North Carolina. So again, young
Oh,
quarterback
oh, it
mistakes.
is.
You never know.
You know what? I'm not gonna lie. I thought the game was in at Notre Dame. If not,
And
yeah, I
Seth
think, yeah, yeah, nah. I'm gonna change my mind. That's a UNC dub. It's gonna be it's gonna be a big upset if they're able to keep this momentum, of course, because that really is something that carries an offense. They're playing Georgia State next. Hopefully they can figure out some of these kinks, make maybe the defense shows up a little bit, with some confidence going into that big game against Notre Dame. Maybe make something out of this. Maybe potentially
yeah,
get ranked.
I think for the ACC is, I guess this is the last thing we'll say before we wrap up this episode. I think for the ACC specifically, this is you. I think this is UNC's year to win it. And I think this is FSU's year to not necessarily win it, but kind of prove himself. Because if you look around the ACC, if you look at the powerhouse Clemson, they kind of have quarterbacks on, but they kind of don't. They have new coordinators, and it's going to be a bit of a tough transition for Clemson. They were the only non-military school to take 0 transfers. We'll see how that impacts them on the field when it comes to actual competition. Most of the competition, Miami, they just got Cristobal in. We'll see how obviously
Overhyped. Overhyped. I'm calling it right now. Overhyped. I've been saying this for a while. Miami's overhyped.
I mean, they've been overhyped. I think Manny Diaz wasn't even a bad coach. I just think I don't see what Cristobal brings to the table that Diaz doesn't. Like recruiting, Cristobal's probably better at, cause like they just lost South Florida. Like if you think Texas and like Texas A&M like losing grasp on the Texas recruiting market's bad. Like if you're a Florida school and you lose the Florida market, like
Yeah. I mean, I think Miami has had the same problem that like FSU kind of had. Is just like they're a relatively big program and they're desperate for success, and they're not giving their coaches enough time to build something or develop.
exactly. Like, and especially if you're Miami, you're the only relevant South Florida school. Like, Miami Dade should be yours for the take when it comes to recruiting, and it just hasn't been. But I think I don't know about you, Avi, but I think that's a good place to end this episode at. So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So thank you guys for watching this episode of the Triple Option Podcast. I'm your host, Nate Autry, with Tarun Deglu and Abhi Dingri. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. And if you guys like this video, please make sure to check out our channel and see all of our other content. We've got some NFL and USFL stuff, as well as, of course, a bunch of college football content. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.